stop moving to Charlotte, North Carolina until you know what it's really like here. Because I made the mistake of moving here not knowing anything about what it's actually like, and I don't want you to make the same mistake, because while I like it, a whole lot of people that move here hate it, and I don't want you to be one of them. So here are the 13 things you must know before moving here. So number one, let's talk about the cost of living here, because North Carolina and Charlotte in particular, you're gonna spend a lot more to live here than many other places in the US, and you're also going to make less money than many other places in the US. But the good news is the cost of living to income ratio is about twice as good here as most places that people move here from. So if you're coming from California, Colorado, New York, Florida, you're going to go from a, as an example, housing index. So that is the cost of housing relative to income. There is 9, 10, 12 times the income, versus here, it is 4.8 times the median income, which means that it's a lot more affordable to actually own property. But I'll give you an example of something that's non-real estate related. So Penny and I are here at the Whitewater Center. This is a 75-ish acre dog park, and I love to come here to hang out and make videos and walk with her. And the annual pass for this is $150 a year. And not only do you get all of this, you also get unlimited whitewater rafting, you get paddleboarding, you get access to 100+ miles of trails. They have live music throughout the summer that you can go every single weekend and enjoy that. Zip lining, rock climbing, there's so many things that you get for $150 a year. And if I was living anywhere else, I don't know if that would be even remotely possible. Now I'll talk about income and the job market specifically more here in just a second, but when it again comes to real estate, the median price here is about $430,000. So you can get a really, really nice home for a little over $400,000 here, which is up 35% since 2020 over the last 5 years. And so again, it's a lot higher than it used to be. You'll hear a lot of locals talk about that, but it's a lot lower than many other areas, and you still get really good value for your money, in my opinion. Now, what I tell clients that are moving here all the time is, who cares about my opinion? Because at the end of the day, it's got to make sense for you. Because if it's a good decision for you to move here, I want you to do it. And if it's not a good decision for you to move here, I don't want you to do it. So I put together a list of homes which has a good balance of not only just whatever's trending on Zillow, but also off-market opportunities and more value options. So you can get a feel for what's available here in Charlotte. That might be what you're looking for, might not be, but it'll at least give you an idea of what it actually costs. You can scan the code or click the link below to get free access to that as my gift to hopefully help you make a better decision. Now, when it comes to income and the job market, I want to give you a really balanced idea of what to expect here, because nobody gives you the truth. Nobody gives you the good and the bad side of this. So I'm going to also talk to the business owners. So let's cover the good first. So North Carolina is extremely business friendly. We have a relatively low corporate tax, and we've been ranked as one of the top 3 states for business in the US for the last 5 years running, every single year by US News. And so there's a lot of good things about doing business here. We have a relatively low income tax, but we do have an income tax. And so, there's a lot of good. But the bad side of this, even though we have really strong job growth and relatively low unemployment, depending on what your career is, you might find it really hard to find a job, at least an in-person job, here in Charlotte. Because Charlotte as a whole is what I call very right brain, meaning, like people talk about left brain being more creative and right brain being more logical. A lot of the jobs and types of jobs you find here are like banking and consulting and engineering, which personally, again, I love this. I love the people I get to meet here because I am an engineer before I was a real estate broker. And so like a lot of my favorite clients and people I've worked with are PhDs and engineers and in healthcare. And we have so many of those kind of jobs. When you get more into the creative side, they do exist, but they're a lot harder to find. So if you are in one of those more creative careers, then you really need to find a job before you move here, or rethink the move altogether, because it might not be the best option for you. Atlanta might be a better option. Now, the third reason you might want to avoid moving to Charlotte, North Carolina is, honestly, it's the crime. So I'll give you the good side and then the bad. The good is, if you're coming from someplace like Philly or Houston or New York or LA or a lot of major cities, you will find that we have substantially less crime, especially substantially less violent crime than those cities. Because Charlotte is a real city and real cities always have crime. Now that said, depending on where you're coming from, it might also have a lot more crime or more crime than you want. You know, like my little sister, I'm 6'6", I'm 240 pounds. I'm a big dude, right? My little sister is not 6'6", she's not 240 pounds, and she's not a big dude. So she has a very different, quote unquote, normal for what she's comfortable with. And there's some areas, some cities that she just would never move to. Now, Charlotte is one of the ones that she might move to, but she's not going to be comfortable everywhere that I would be. And I don't expect you to be necessarily comfortable everywhere I would be either. So when clients or friends ask me where's safe, where's not safe, I always say, you know, it's up to what you feel safe with. So I just send you the actual crime map that has the real data you can see. And you will see, especially on parts of the east side, parts of the north side, you're gonna see on that heat map some really hot areas. But there's also a lot of great areas too, and I don't want you to think it's all bad, because some towns like Davidson and Huntersville and Waxhaw are literally some of the safest towns in America. So it's not all bad. But for the fourth reason that you might not want to move here is the public transportation. I'm just gonna put this really blunt. If you're looking for someplace that's super walkable and you never need to buy a car, you don't need to own a car, you don't want to be in a car-centric place, just forget about it. Just period. Stop looking. Charlotte's not gonna be for you. Yeah, we have some walkable neighborhoods. I made a 33-minute deep dive on the most walkable neighborhoods here, so you can always go watch that video if you're really curious. But you're not gonna find really walkable neighborhoods here that are gonna be as good as, let's say, Pittsburgh or New York or Chicago or even parts of LA. Now you might find some pretty walkable areas for a lot less than what those cost, but you're not gonna find really walkable areas. And if that's really important to you, just forget about it. Now, if you do have a car, we have a very extensive highway system, and you don't have to take a car every day. Like if you live in South End, I have several friends that commute via the light rail into the banking district every day, but it's definitely the minority of people. It's only a few people that are gonna be able to take advantage of that compared to, like, you need a car, period. Now this leads me to the fifth reason you might wanna avoid moving to Charlotte, which is the terrible, god-awful drivers that we have here. And there's three main types that are the worst. So number one is the leader of the slow parade. Those are people that get over in the left lane, they just ride. They're going 10 under the limit and they're blocking traffic. We got a lot of those. But the worst of all is what I call a smartphone super user. I cannot tell you how many times I look over at somebody riding in the left lane, riding in the right lane, doing, you know, on the highway 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, and they're just on their phone. I don't know how. We have a relatively low accident rate here in North Carolina, and I don't know how, honestly. I see some crazy stuff, not the least of which is people who have no idea how roundabouts work. There's one next to my house, and every single day I have to lay on my horn because of people who are either yielding to people they're not supposed to yield to, or people who are not yielding to people they're supposed to yield to. Which, if any of those three types are you, I'm sorry, look up a YouTube tutorial on how to drive properly, please. The rest of us will thank you kindly. And for anybody wondering about the traffic, you'll hear people complain about it all the time, but I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna be really, really, really blunt. People that complain about the traffic here have never seen real traffic anywhere else. They just haven't been anywhere. So don't hold it against them, but our traffic is not anything compared to any real, like, large city. It's nothing. Now, just because I don't think it's bad does not mean I think you should be parked on the interstate for 20 or 30 minutes every day going to work, so don't take it to mean that, because there's nothing more soul crushing than just getting stuck, not being able to move, and it's like you literally could have just sat at home in the parking lot waiting before you drive back home. So don't take it to mean that. And it's a big part of lifestyle, it's a big part of happiness, which is one of the reasons why I put together a commutes and lifestyle quiz, which it's kind of like a personality quiz, but for Charlotte areas and neighborhoods, which will then give you a short list of suggestions of areas that you ought to check out that might match what you're looking for in an area to call home. You can scan the link or click below to go take that free quiz right now. But the sixth reason you might want to avoid calling Charlotte home has to be because of the weather. Now, a lot of people love our weather and a lot of people also hate our weather. So I'm gonna say, first of all, if you love cold weather, it's pretty tropical here. I don't know if you can tell, but it's probably not gonna be the best place that you could move, because we do have 4 seasons, so it does get a little chilly during the wintertime. But I play tennis outside in shorts and a t-shirt, dressed basically like this, all the time during November, December, January, February, very comfortably, because it is not uncommon for us to have 40, 50, or 50, 60, sometimes even 70-degree days through then. And even though we will have a week or two every winter that'll drop below freezing, it's really lightweight, it's really easy. And as far as winters go, it barely qualifies as a winter. It's really, really easy. That said, we will get a little bit tropical, a little bit humid and warm during the summer, but there's no triple-digit 100, 110-degree days. We'll maybe have a couple weeks during the summer that get up into the high 90s. It's very temperate for the most part. And again, personally, I love that. And many people, I'll say it, many people love it. There's also a whole lot of people I talk to that are like, they either like their Florida heat, they like their Texas heat, and they like the cold that you get with a real winter, and we don't have that. We also don't really have any natural disasters. Raleigh has some tornadoes, but we don't have any tornadoes. East Coast, we'll get some hurricanes, we don't get any. So I will say also, some people heard about the disaster that happened out in Asheville this past fall, but the one thing nobody talked about, even realtors don't realize this, FEMA publishes mudslide maps just like they publish flood maps, and most of the homes that were affected were within mudslide maps. That was the majority of loss of life, and it's very sad. It's something to be aware of, that there are safety resources out there that if you work with a really good agent, they're able to help you avoid potential dangers like that. But at least here in Charlotte, we have virtually zero natural disasters, knock on wood. But at least so far, it's very, very uneventful. Now, the 7th reason to avoid Charlotte is the allergies, because there's 2 types of allergy people. People who already had allergies and they got worse, and people who didn't have allergies that now have allergies. I was in the second camp, and I will say, so even I was here a couple weeks ago, and if you saw that video talking about leaving Indiana for Charlotte, there was a giant cloud of pollen. You could literally see it on that video behind me, literally right there, because of, there's this orange coating of pollen that covers everything through the spring and the fall. And through the summer, it's not too bad, but everybody that moves here, those first 2 years are horrible. The 3rd year, I am, at this point, I don't have to use Claritin or anything. Most years, some years it's extra bad, but like this year, I didn't have to use any allergy meds. And it's something that, especially first couple of years, you will need them. Antihistamines will be your friend. They will be your best friend, because it will be rough. But the 8th reason to avoid this place has to be all of the critters. The living stuff, the creepy crawly stuff, the slithery slidey stuff. We got snakes, we have bears, we have, you name it, pretty much we got it. We have ticks. You gotta check it yourself and your puppy if you go hiking during the summer. Make sure that you watch where you step, because I have seen snakes out before. It's very, very infrequent, at least around Charlotte, that I've seen it. But just, be smart. Don't go wading into tall grass if you don't want to see anything slithery, slidey. We have cockroaches down here. Those are, again, I haven't seen a whole lot of them, but you do see them. And there's these big mounds of dirt that you'll sometimes see that'll be sometimes a foot tall. They're called fire ants, and they boil up like a fire out of there if you disturb them. And do not let them on you, because they will start biting and they do not stop. There's a whole lot of stuff that you do not want to mess with here. Now, that said, there's also a whole lot of very, very gorgeous nature here. Like, it is so beautiful, and I mean, this video is about the reasons you want to avoid it, right? But it's one of the big reasons I moved to North Carolina, and why a lot of people do, is because there's so much nature between the mountains, between the beaches. There's a lot of really pretty nature, both places and everywhere in between. And talking about the bugs, I just smacked a mosquito right off of me right now, and I'm not that close to water. I'm somewhere in the woods here, so we got bugs. Now, the 9th reason you might want to avoid moving to Charlotte is the slower pace. Now, this is also the reason why a lot of people move here, but not everybody. Some people really hate it. You will not have the same nightlife that you have coming from Miami or Atlanta. You will not have the same options, like bars and clubs close at the latest at 2, many times at like 12 or 1, even on prime Friday and Saturday nights. And what we have instead is, I call it more kind of relational, social kind of get-togethers and things to do. So breweries are very popular here. We have over 250 local craft breweries in North Carolina. And a lot of the get-togethers and things to do are based around some sort of an activity or a sport like hiking or kayaking or getting together to play tennis. That's what I love to do with my friends. That's what I'm doing this weekend, is we're getting some group coaching so we can get better on our game. And it's not so much going out and partying. So if that's where you're looking for that, again, it's not going to be here. And also going along with that, the slower pace is in every area of life. So when you're at work, people will chop it up and talk about, what's going on this weekend. You'll talk about the game, you talk about college sports. Everybody does it. And if you don't, it's weird, and people kind of point, like, look at that guy, he's so uptight. Maybe not literally point, but it can feel like it when people are like literally staring at you, which is what happened after I moved here and I was a little bit too East Coast with how I was operating in my old corporate job. Eateries, food halls, music venues, all very popular here too. And there's actually a lot of music, I will say that much. I love going to EDM shows and festivals and that sort of thing. And Charlotte has almost as many as Atlanta, and it's very hard to rival Chicago, so not nearly as many as Chicago, but it still has a great selection compared even to Chicago. So if you still want access to it, but you don't want to be doing it nonstop, then Charlotte could be a really good option for you. Now, the 10th reason you might want to avoid this place is something called Blue Laws, which I actually had not heard about before moving here. But overarching, what you got to remember, most people will tell you it's not the South, because it isn't. Charlotte especially it's not the South, but it is very Southern. And so, especially around alcohol, they have very traditional state laws. And so when you can buy booze, where you can consume it, is relatively restricted. Now, don't get me wrong, especially people who are from here, but also people who move here, all enjoy going out, sharing drinks, having parties, going to the bar, the club, whatever. But the liquor stores, they are closed on Sundays. You're very restricted on when you can buy it during the week. I think they close at 8 or 9 p.m. And even more so, like, nobody except for the official state ABC stores that are run, I think, through the county, you can't buy liquor anywhere else. So if you love your Kirkland Signature vodka or Kirkland Signature tequila, you're going to be giving that up when you move here, unless you're willing to drive an hour and a half or 2 hours to South Carolina to go to one of the Costco liquor stores there. Number 11, North Carolina, and Charlotte in particular, have a few unique quirks that make it one of the most dangerous places to buy real estate, as well as one of the most potentially rewarding. So we have something called a due diligence fee, which is a non-refundable deposit, very similar to earnest money that most states do have, except it's non-refundable. And so it is expected that somewhere between 0.5% to 1% of the purchase price of the property, sometimes a lot more, sometimes even 2 or 3%, it gets put up as a non-refundable deposit, where if you inspect the house and decide not to buy it, you're not getting it back. And so it's very, very important to make sure that you know exactly what you're getting up to up front, and you have somebody that's really, really knowledgeable, not just somebody that just got their real estate license yesterday, right? Who understands what are the local things here you need to avoid in a home. And sometimes that means we got to change what you're looking for, because there's so many times where somebody describes something, the only place you're going to find it is in a really risky home. And if that wasn't bad enough, HOAs are everywhere. It's very difficult to buy a home here without an HOA. And some people like that, but many people do not. And if you're one of the people that do not like it, you're going to need to buy a home, most likely with an HOA, unless you have a very, very sizable budget, because they're so common here. And the ones that don't have an HOA oftentimes are much more expensive properties, either directly or indirectly, because there's no HOA. And on top of that, we are what's called a buyer beware state, which means that if there's anything that's of importance to you, or anything that you might not want to buy a property because of, it's up to you and your agent to figure that out, because the seller, with very, very few exceptions, is not obligated to tell you anything, and they're not obligated to change, repair, modify, improve anything. It's as is all the time, unless they agree to do something up front before you even have a chance to inspect the property. And this is why I say it's such a dangerous place to buy real estate, but it can also, with the right team of people who know what they're doing, it can also be incredibly rewarding and profitable. Not to mention our property taxes and insurance, homeowners insurance, are a fraction of many, many other states. Now, I will say the 12th reason not to move here isn't really a reason not to move here. It's just something you gotta be aware of. My girlfriend's actually in med school, almost done with med school, about to be a doctor. And when it comes to healthcare in North Carolina, we have some wonderful healthcare. We have some of the best specialists and research places anywhere in the country. But in Charlotte in particular, we have a unique thing that personally, again, I think it's a plus. I don't know why you would say it's a negative, but you need to know. We have the large health networks here, that everything is within one, giant hospital corporation, but it's big enough, and we have enough towns around outside of Charlotte that we also have lots of independent providers and small, more niche providers, and there's, again, a ton of specialists because it is a very large city. And if you want somebody that does it all, there are providers that do that. There's doctors that do that. And if you want somebody that's ultra specialized and only does one specific little thing, there's also people that do that too. And so you're not really locked into anything in particular. We have a really great selection of options when it comes to healthcare. That said, healthcare costs compared to larger metros are cheaper, but compared to our cost of living, like, you're gonna spend more money as a percentage of the money you make on average than other places. So just, again, be aware of it. I don't know if it's good, I don't know if it's bad, just be aware. But next, we have actually the #1 most common mistake that I see people make, which is to move here without having any idea what they're getting into, without visiting, without doing anything. I do not care how much research you do. I'm a researcher, again, I used to be an engineer. No matter how much research you do, you will never be able to tell what a place feels like by a spreadsheet or even Google Street View. You can look around, but you'll never know what it feels like to be right here with the birds chirping out in the middle of the woods and actually just feel the vibe. You won't be able to feel what it's like to walk down, streets in the city or streets in the suburb, or drive through new construction neighborhoods and then feel what it's like to then go to the local shopping center that's 5 minutes away and go grab some Mexican food at, Que Onda or something. My favorite Mexican place. Very good, very good. Get the queso. That queso is so good. Basically, as much as I love Charlotte, don't take my word as some random guy on the internet or anybody else's. Anybody else that says that they know whether or not Charlotte's good for you is full of it. Nobody knows except for you when you actually visit and see it and feel it for yourself. So plan out a visit. Do not skip over that. And if you want to get a feel for what real estate costs you, what it looks like, if it might be something that looks like a good fit for you, again, you can scan the code, click the link below that I mentioned earlier. And if you think you might want to visit here, or maybe already have a visit plan on the books, I offer a free 15-minute Charlotte virtual tour and visit planning call where I just tell you more about the stuff you want to know about that's important to you to help you make the most of your time here. Again, there's scan the code, click the link below for that. And if you're still in the planning and learning phase and you want an exhaustive overview of all the good and the bad of Charlotte, North Carolina, before you punch your credit card info into the airline's website, you can watch my brutally honest pros and cons of living in Charlotte video right here.